UK, 1 or 2 showers across Scotland during the early hours, and overnight, once again a mild night, temperatures 12 to 15 Celsius as a low in the towns and cities, a little bit fresher in the countryside. So the weekend starts off dry and bright for many, a little bit of cloud across western areas, but this will dissolve as the day goes on. Plenty of blue skies for everyone. However, another weak weather front may move into the far northwest, the Northern Ireland, western Scotland turning cloudy, but temperatures again reaching the mid to high 20s. This continues on Sunday as well, and then perhaps even warmer as we get to Monday with 31.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
I'm Andrew Doyle. In a moment, it will be time for Headliners, where I'll be taking you through tomorrow's newspapers with the help of 2 comedic luminaries. But first, it's time for the news headlines.
I'm Ray Addison, keeping you up to date from the GB newsroom. Boris Johnson has resigned as leader of the Conservative Party. Speaking outside Number 10, he admitted feeling deeply saddened, but said it was the will of his party. His decision to step down follows 3 days of government revolt that's seen almost 60 MPs, including 5 cabinet ministers, quit. Boris Johnson will now continue to serve as Prime Minister until the party chooses his successor. That's expected to happen by October.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. I know that there will be many people who are relieved and perhaps quite a few who will also be disappointed. And I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
Well, following that resignation speech, Boris Johnson tweeted his thanks to the British public, saying it was an immense privilege to serve as their Prime Minister. He also pledged to continue serving in their best interests until his replacement is appointed. However, Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, says Boris Johnson should step down immediately.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, should be the caretaker Prime Minister, whilst the Conservatives choose their next leader. Once he or she's been elected, there should be a general election, so the British public have the choice of a fresh start, and I'll be campaigning for a Labour government led by Keir Starmer.
Well, earlier this evening, reporters asked former Health Secretary Sajid Javid whether he would be interested in replacing Boris Johnson as PM. His resignation was the first of dozens of government officials to abandon their post this week.
Evening, Sajid.
Good evening. How are you?
You
all right?
the top dog, Sajid?
Good evening.
Have you got a good team around you? Have you chosen a team?
Great evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Nothing else to say, Sajid? You going for the top dog, Sajid?
Well, speculation is rife over who will put themselves forward for the leadership competition. Those who've expressed their interest include Attorney General Suella Braverman and MP Tom Tugendhat. Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock says whoever the next leader is, they must attract broad support.
Next election is likely about 2 years from now. We need to deliver in that time, but then we've got to also be able to get the support that we need to form the administration after that.
To other news now, and the Ministry of Justice has confirmed that the mother of baby P has now been released from prison. Tracy Connolly was jailed in 2009 for causing or allowing the death of her 17-month-old son at their home in Tottenham. Baby P suffered more than 50 injuries, including fractured ribs. Justice Secretary Dominic Raab has condemned the decision to release her, saying the parole system needs a fundamental overhaul. And actor James Caan, who starred as gangster Sonny Corleone in the Godfather movie, has died at the age of 82. His family announced the news on Twitter, saying they appreciate the outpouring of love and heartfelt condolences. Caan was also well known for roles in Brian's Song, Misery and Elf. Actor Arnold Schwarzenegger has described him as an icon and a legend. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now let's get back to those headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. Joining me tonight is a woman that has resigned from many esteemed positions. It's Sajila Kershi. And next to her, we have a man who has found himself in many compromising positions but didn't have the wherewithal to remove himself. It's Leo Kearse. How are you both? It's been a dramatic couple of days.
Oh, my God. It's like a Spanish telenovela. I have been hooked.
It's brilliant. It is.
Honestly.
I mean, it's like Game of Thrones or something. It's been so many twists.
I know.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. It's like literally got the popcorn out.
Yeah.
I didn't even go and have a shower this morning because I was like, I just didn't want to miss anything.
Are you enjoying it, Leo?
I am assuming you've had a shower. Have you had a shower since?
Just for you? No.
OK, let's leave the flirtation till later and let's move on to going through tomorrow's front pages. And we're going to start with the Daily Mail. And they've gone with, what the hell have they done? And you can see there an image of Boris with Carrie and his son. And the paper is talking about how they've been cast out by a party in the grip of collective hysteria. So the Daily Mail very much holding their colours to the mast there. Let's move on now to the Telegraph. They lead with PM's long goodbye leaves UK in state of paralysis, with an image there of Boris and his son. Is it Wilf or Wolf? I think it's Wilf, but I think it should be Wolf after the Gladiator, but made a mistake there. Independent next. Going, but still in number 10. After another flurry of resignations, Johnson finally says he'll step down when new leader is chosen. We're going to move on now to The Guardian, and they keep it nice and simple. It's almost over, with a not very flattering image of Johnson, not surprising given their viewpoints. On to the Financial Times now. They lead with Johnson quits, defiant to the end. That's him outside of number 10, an image from his press conference earlier. On to the Mirror, clinging on for one last party. He quits as PM, but wants to stay on until he's had a Chequers wedding bash. Well, that's an interesting theory. We're going to be talking about that later today, most definitely. Can't be true, can it? Well, we'll see. The Times next. Johnson throws in the towel. That's the metaphor that the Times has gone for. He liked the towel, and he was holding onto that towel for quite a while before throwing it in. Anyway, on to the Daily Express. Different tack here. They've gone with, thank you, Boris. You gave Britain back its freedom. So putting a very positive spin on that. And then finally onto the Metro. Leave means leave. OK, nice and clear. Oh, there's one more here. We've got the Daily Star. The Daily Star have gone with Bozo, that legacy in full. And an image of him with a clown nose. Not very flattering at all. And those are your front covers. So we crack on with Friday's Express and credit where credit is due. Boris has some virtues, doesn't he?
Yes,
they've
he does.
really gone for the positive spin on this one, haven't
They really have. So they open with reluctantly, but with great dignity. Boris Johnson yesterday conceded his tumultuous premiership was finally over. I don't know if great dignity is the phrase I'd use to describe it.
He said, them's the breaks.
Yeah. Not the most dignified phrase. And also, he was hanging on. He was hanging on like Japanese knotweed in an outside garden. Not that you get inside gardens. But yeah, they do have a point. I mean, he got Brexit done. He steered Britain through the COVID crisis, procured all the vaccines, won an 87-seat majority, and also rallied support across Europe and across the West for Ukraine.
So there's, a lot of criticism of Johnson today, but there's, as you say, there's another perspective here, which is that some people really value what he did. The vaccine rollout was clearly one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
And, actually, his stance on Brexit at the time was quite unusual for ministers of that time. So it was quite a gutsy approach to take. So, Gina, I know you're not a fan of the Tories, but can you see any merit in that?
Oh, do you know, this morning I almost felt sorry for him. It was like, so, I thought, oh, that's going to be awful. And I was waiting for him to come out. And then, he doesn't disappoint, does he? He came out and it was like, this is him being kicked out. Remember when Theresa May was in a similar situation?
Yeah.
Though less hated, obviously.
Yes.
She cried. It was quite emotional. Now, if you see that historically, that piece of video, it's like he smashed it. Do you know what I mean? It's like I smashed it. It's like a comedian. And I did great. I was like, amazing.
This is always the point at which even the most hated prime ministers can look human.
Yeah.
You remember when Margaret Thatcher got into the car and you saw her crying for the first time in her life, I think. And it's just interesting that it really humanised because all of these political careers end in tragedy, don't they?
No regret, no remorse.
There was nothing from him, was there?
Nothing. There was a touching moment with, Carrie, like with the baby. And I thought, oh, the baby's quite cute. Was it Roma? Very sweet. I thought it was a quite touching moment. I thought maybe he'll, soften. Maybe he'll do something. And it was nothing. And I thought I just wasted my sympathy on him.
So, Leo, do you think that he's got to take responsibility ultimately for what happened here?
Yeah, I don't think he will take it, but we know he's responsible. And, the sort of narcissism and ego that he's displayed in his valedictory speech is, sort of shows the lack of moral fibre. That meant that he couldn't make decisions that were in the nation's interest if they damaged his popularity.
But look, the Brexit thing is really important. It's interesting that the Express focuses on this because, as Johnson continually said over the past couple of days, he has the mandate of 14 million votes. A lot of those votes came from people who traditionally voted for the left, but they were voting for this because they had voted to leave and they valued democracy, OK? So he has that mandate. And, is it not the case that we need a general election now? If we're going to have another leader, we can't have someone who comes in and doesn't run on that mandate.
No, because we elect the party, not the leader. It's not a presidency.
No, but this is the thing. Like, he's such a survivor. Now, he's got this interim period where, like, a lot of people say, well, no, we're going to discuss it later, where a lot of people are saying that they don't want him in the interim. They don't even trust him to do the interim. And I think he is that, canny, that he could actually drag something out of the bag during this interim period. He could do something really crazy.
We are going to discuss later on whether he's going to go, but let's move on now. It's all about Boris, obviously, today. Let's go to an ex-Prime Minister giving advice to a soon-to-be ex-Prime Minister. This from Friday's Independent, Leo.
Yeah, so John Major has urged the 1922 committee to remove Boris Johnson quickly. So he's John Major, obviously, is a former Conservative Prime Minister he released a letter saying it was unwise and maybe unsustainable for Johnson to stay in office for up to 3 months, as Johnson wants.
So this is the question, isn't it? So is it really conceivable that he can stay in office for 3 months? Can he... he's got no respect among the party, and that's surely where it counts at this stage. Sajida, what do you think? Do you think he should go right now?
No. I can't believe I'm saying that, because I think maybe it's the comedian in me, and I'm just like, do you know when Trump, disappeared? I was a bit gutted. I was like, oh, what are we going to do now?
Well, we've got Dominic Raab standing by.
Yeah, but he's not as much fun.
It's not as much fun. You're thinking in terms of the comedic value.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I can't do anything with Dominic. I can't do anything with him.
No, he's too dashing.
He's too dashing.
And
but
nice.
Also, I do think we're in this really awful situation where there's no one taking care of the country right now. And, better the devil you know. It's not like we're going to get someone else and they're going to be any better.
Yes, but, isn't it about him holding the reins of the party at this point? It's interesting, though, that these people keep popping up, people like John Major, Tony Blair often does it, old prime ministers coming up and trying to have their say. But on this...
They had their time. They've had their time.
They have.
No, back off, Major. Go back to being great.
What do you think, though? Surely, can he possibly do anything at this point.
You think he's going to do some sort of Putin-esque thing and change the rules so he can stay on?
No, of course I don't think
for
that.
another like 20 years.
What I mean is, can he really have any control?
No, I mean that's the thing. He's lost any sort of any ability to control the party and guide it. So yeah, there's no point in him staying on. It needs fresh blood immediately.
Well, irrelevant story now. This is the same sort of theme. This is Friday's Times next. More aspersions on Boris's character, but this time from north of the border. Sajila.
OK, so Nicola Sturgeon has got...
Because of course she's got an opinion.
Of course she has an opinion on this. So basically, Johnson lacks character to be interim PM and must go, she says. And so what she's doing is, no sooner as Boris resigned, she basically puts her party stall out on top of the ashes of his career and, is effectively pushing for the, hey, Westminster, the system's just not working for us anymore. We need independence, that old chestnut's come out. And she's just saying that she wants him gone completely.
We're not surprised by that.
We're not, it's not surprising, but she is using that, on the one hand, she's saying it's untenable to have him there as interim, but she hasn't actually suggested who should replace him, which no one has really.
Herself.
She doesn't suggest herself. No.
Well, I'm going to go to you, Leo, because I know you're a huge fan of Nicola Sturgeon. You've always got such lovely words to say for her.
Well, she's just such a hypocrite, demanding... Well, she was demanding that Boris resigns. Now he's resigned. She's demanding he goes straight away. I mean, at least Boris resigned after sex scandals in the Tory party. There have been so many sex scandals in the SNP. I'm not just talking about Alex Salmond, the former leader, with his sleepy cuddles. There's also MSP Mark MacDonald, who resigned as Children's Minister after inappropriate messages to women. There's Derek Mackay, who resigned, but is still getting a huge amount of money from the taxpayer after hundreds of messages, creepy messages to a teenage boy. And most importantly, Patrick Grady, who is the chief whip and a key ally of Sturgeon, is still in the party, still in office.
I mean, I know you always want an opportunity to have a go at the SNP.
No, the SNP threatened his victim, his teenage victim, with disciplinary action, who's working in the party, and suspended his email. The SNP punished his victim.
For all the hypocrisy that you're outlining there, I don't deny any of that. Surely she still has a right to an opinion when it comes to politics.
No, this is ridiculous. I'd rather have the Vatican lecture me on babysitting. This is absolute nonsense.
OK, let's move on now onto the front cover of Friday's Mail. And it seems Boris didn't meet Russia's lofty ethical political standards either, Leo. So this article in particular mentions how Moscow and Putin are over the moon that Johnson's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it says Russian officials have lined up to celebrate the downfall of Boris Johnson, with a leading tycoon casting the British leader as a stupid clown who got his just reward for arming Ukraine against Russia. And the Kremlin said it hoped more professional people would come to power. I mean, this just shows it's interesting that, Labour, the SNP and Brussels are on the same side as Putin and giving strength to Putin when Ukraine was really key out of everybody, all the Western leaders. One of the things we can really say about Boris is he was absolutely key in rallying the West against Putin and upholding Western liberal democracy.
Well, no wonder they don't like him. It's a bit rich, though, isn't it? Putin describing him as a clown. This is the man who likes to wrestle with bears and ride topless on horses.
Yeah, which is more in coming with a clown kind of,
exactly
activity.
It's the sort of thing you'd see in a circus tent.
Absolutely. I love that they think when more professional people will come. I don't know why I do this next one, but more professional people come. Well, what are these more professional people? Are they going to be siding with Russia? Because I don't think they are.
Really, this is about Boris Johnson.
They're coming from Jamaica, apparently, according to your accent.
Yeah, well, who knows what the accent was there?
The professionals from Jamaica. That's right. Just watch out for them.
But then what about this? I mean, obviously, Boris Johnson, this is about the Ukraine war, and Boris Johnson is perceived as a bit of a hero amongst some Ukrainians. Yeah. Didn't they even name a cake after him? Yeah. Some kind of sugary bun.
And I should imagine a lot of children will be named Boris, although, I mean, they're probably named Boris anyway.
Oh, maybe that's why he's been going on those little trips. More children, more little mini Borises.
Into libelous terrain.
Allegedly.
Let's move on quickly now onto Friday's Mirror's front page. And hopefully Boris is aware he's actually at this particular party.
So Boris Johnson and wife Carrie to host lavish Chequers wedding party while he clings on. Now, when you heard the speech, do you recall that he made a little faux pas? He was saying, I'm going to be leaving 10 Downing Street. But instead of saying 10 Downing Street, he said, I'm going to be leaving Chequers. And I didn't know what Chequers was at this point, so I Googled it and then found out that it's just like this big mansion house, which looks a bit like Colditz from the outside.
It's gorgeous. It's really not. I mean,
no
wonder he wants the party there. But can this be true? Could it possibly be the case that he wants to hold on?
Yeah, that he's holding on. Well, I don't know about him, but I think Carrie's like cheap hold of the job. I'm getting my wedding done there. I've ordered everything and you're not going to screw it up for me. But
there
yeah,
are other places.
There's other places. Well, his allies are saying that don't be silly. Of course, that's not why he wants to stay. As the interim prime minister. It's because he's, it's out of a sense of duty. We know that it's always out of a sense of duty.
Wait, Leo, you seem sceptical. You laugh mockingly. But I mean, come on, it can't really be the case that he's going to hold on to this job for all the flack that will entail so that he can have a nice place for his wedding bash.
I mean, it's feasible. I mean, this is the Mirror, so obviously they're taking an extreme sort of left-wing stance on it. So I believe this is about as much as I would believe the Guardian. But yeah, I can with somebody with the ego of Boris, he's surely looking forward to having a wedding at Chequers and having everybody, in these stately grounds and everything.
But it's perks of the job, isn't it? It's like if you could use your workspace. That was really posh.
I will.
You would.
We're going to renew our vows at
GB News.
Yeah, the GB News tea room. But Boris doesn't need to worry because Weatherspoons will do a full wedding reception for $3,000.
Well, I mean, all of my family have always got married in church halls and just put a bit of bunting up.
Yeah.
Get some stuff in from Lidl. It works a treat. You don't need Chequers.
They have actually already been married. They did a secret ceremony at Westminster Cathedral with only just a handful of guests in 2021.
Oh, they were slumming it.
And then they had a Downing Street. This is rich. They had a Downing Street garden party, but diddums, only allowed 30 guests because of COVID restrictions. Is this one of the legal parties that you had, or the illegal parties? I can't work out.
It does get very confusing, to be fair, doesn't it? OK, well, let's move on. This resignation has obviously left a political vacuum. There's a whole host of candidates. We'll be manoeuvring as we speak. But the first, I just want to quickly, this article now talks about Suella Braverman in particular, Leo, but we do have a clip of her from yesterday, and this was, I think, where she was really launching her campaign. So let's have a look at this.
There's many, many priorities, but I think fundamentally we need to deliver some proper tax cuts so that people can be dealing with the cost of living challenges in a more feasible way. We need to shrink the size of the state and cut government spending so we can curb inflation. We need to solve the problem of the boats across the Channel. We need to stop a foreign court interfering in our domestic affairs. We need to make sure the Brexit opportunities are felt for everybody in this country. And lastly, we need to get rid of all of this woke rubbish and actually get back to a country where describing a man and a woman in terms of biology does not mean that you're going to lose your job.
I think that's quite an important point, isn't it, Leo? Because that's the one thing that Labour candidates can't seem to say, and in fact a lot of Tories have trouble with it as well.
Oh yeah, and what she's saying is what the Conservative Party used to stand for. And wouldn't it be amazing if we had a conservative leader for the
you're
first
actually
time?
pretty pro.
Yeah, for the first time this century, like David Cameron, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, they're all kind of liberal wet. So Suella Braverman, she's great. She grew up here. She's second generation immigrant. She gained a scholarship to a fee-paying secondary school, then went on to read law at Cambridge, became a barrister. She's amazing. She's anti-woke. She's a Leave campaigner. She had a law changed just for her, so she could. There's maternity leave for the Attorney General. And what she's saying, tax cuts. Imagine a Tory government that cut tax instead of putting it up.
What do you think of Suella?
OK, look, I'm all about the sisterhood, right? I totally am. But I'm sorry, but that was a really weak argument, and it was literally like she's been watching.
You mean Leo's argument?
No. Her kind of speech just then. I wasn't sold that that's the leader of our country.
Third female Prime Minister. That's got to be worth
something. And as much as I'd like that, I mean, oh gosh, there's so many. There's a list of them, and everyone I've ticked off, like Rishi Sunak, why him? Not because of the non-dom thing. Steve Baker, slimy, really slimy. And Suella, I just thought she was just a bit green. She's a bit green. She comes across as way too green. Sajid Javid, I'm sorry, a man with integrity. Where was your integrity the last 2 years? The people that left the ship now.
So this is the big problem, isn't it, that we don't feel like there's anyone who's outstanding.
There isn't.
There's even backbenchers coming in saying they want a part. Steve Baker does have ministerial experience. There is that. I mean, what about Ben Wallace? Although then he's a Remainer, and that creates all sorts of suspicions. But
I think it would. I think Ukraine would like it if Ben Wallace came in. So he's the Defence Secretary, and he's gonna back up.
What do we think? I mean, I do come back to this point about Brexit because I think it's very important. A lot of people have been saying, well, now that Boris has gone, we can ditch Brexit. I don't think that's going to happen, and I think we do need to remember the reason why Boris was voted in. That mandate, and I know you say that mandate doesn't pass on to that's not how this works, but I do think a general election needs to be called, because he has an 80-seat majority on this mandate of populism, on this mandate of democracy, restoring democracy.
But how can
But his popularity...
If we have a candidate who comes in who has a completely different view of the direction that the Conservative Party needs to take, they don't have the mandate of the public.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, you're obviously not going to get a complete volte-face from whoever comes in because there's still going to be a Conservative. I mean, hopefully they'll have more sort of consistency in their logic and their policy than Boris Johnson, who flip-flopped. You know, he used to be a Remainer, then he became a pro-Leave. He did whatever whatever would make him popular is what he did. He didn't have this sort of political consistency.
OK, well, we have to move on now. We're going to Friday's Telegraph next. Leo has a subscription to The Economist, so you've got some insights on this, right?
Yeah, so this is in the Telegraph. So part of it says the PM's long goodbye leaves the UK in a state of paralysis, and part of that paralysis will be the next Tory leader will find it impossible to cut taxes. This is a lie. This is from the Office of Budget Responsibility. They said tax cuts cannot pay for themselves and cannot be made if the government wants to keep debt declining. So Andy King at the OBR said cutting taxes reduces revenue and does put pressure on fiscal balances. He then said tax cuts can of course be financed by spending reductions. Yes, there's so much waste in government. They're spending money on all this like pointless, nonsensical stuff. Every bit of like EDI and everything that's painted a rainbow colour. The Arts Council, that can go. There's so much.
You should be Chancellor.
I should be Chancellor.
You should absolutely be Chancellor.
I should 100%. We'd finally have a Conservative Chancellor. It would be amazing.
What do you think, Sir Gina? Do you think Leo makes?
I think Leo's already tried his hand at politics, haven't you?
Oh, he did? Yeah. But that doesn't mean that's the end of his. He might go back.
It doesn't have to end there. I'm sure there's an opening.
There's definitely
for a
an
job.
opening.
Yeah. I mean, you probably got just as much chance as any of the others.
Well, yeah, I'm not actually in the party or anything.
No,
Well, we don't have consistent economic policy here because the various candidates for the job all seem to have different views on this, and you've got a number of people who want to go back to the old sort of Thatcherite approach. And then what happens to Boris's sort of levelling up strategy? You know, big state spending, all of that. We are confused here.
I think you could have free ports, which are cheap and sort of encourage growth in those areas. But Britain's got a huge tax burden at the moment. Our tax burden is at the highest level since the 1940s, since the Attlee government. So this idea that we've had all these Labour governments since then that didn't tax us as much as Boris's government is right now.
OK, well, we've reached the end of the first section of Headliners. That's been the Boris section, I think we all agree. But coming up after the break, renegade HSBC bankers. Leo will be delicately and insightfully opining about the Israeli Ben and Jerry situation. And the romantics were right. It turns out you actually can die from a broken heart. See you in 2 minutes.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle. And I've also got with me Sajila Kershi and Leo Kearse. On to Friday's Telegraph now, and a banker has been dropping some truth bombs. Leo, what's all this about?
Yeah, so this is an executive from HSBC. So it's Britain's biggest bank, apparently. He's called Stuart Kirk. They put him on paid leave in May after he hit out at climate nut jobs during a city event and asked...
Those are his words, right?
Yeah, these are his words, but also mine. He said, and also said, who cares if Miami is 6 metres underwater in 100 years? So he was head of global head of responsible investing at HSB Asset Management. But he's now decided to quit in protest at being suspended. And he's added that cancel culture destroys wealth and progress, and there is no place for virtue signalling in finance. I totally agree with him. You can see, so all these investment groups like BlackRock, they've got like ESG, environmental, social and governance rules. And so when they invest in a company like Netflix, it has to meet all these rules. So then it has to go woke, and then nobody wants to watch it because it's rubbish, and then they lose all their money. So it does seem to be destroying
So, I mean, from the look of things, he was quite indelicate when he was talking about climate change, and he was sort of basically criticising the doom mongers. And he says, all of these predictions of Armageddon, they never come true. But does he have a point, Sajila, or do you think they should have cracked down?
No, I mean, like, he's a global manager, and then he says that, who cares if Miami is 6 metres underwater?
I imagine people who live in Miami do.
Yeah, I think people in Miami do. And then, but yet, on his LinkedIn, it says he actually loves Miami. So if he's lying about that, what else is he lying about here?
I think his whole point was Miami's not going to be underwater. Since I can remember, which is a long time, so I'm quite old, I've been told that the world is about to end. It used to be, there's peak oil and nuclear Armageddon and, a new ice age. Then global warming's been the big one for ages. All it seems to mean is we get slightly nicer summers.
Your lifespan, Leo, is not in the grand scheme of things, isn't that long, right? And, slightly nicer summers in Scotland, well, that doesn't tell us much, does it?
Also, he's about to be a parent. I think you're going to change your view when you
might when you have a child.
Because there's a different way to look at the world then.
But Sajila, isn't the point here that there really needs to be room for diverse opinions within finance, within any corporation? Like, he's got his views, but rather than just say, well, those are your views, but we don't agree, we want to sort of get rid of you. And that seems to appear to have been what's happened here.
Well, I thought they'd just given him some leave until he'd kind of calmed down, and they just thought that they've just treated him like he's had a fit of the vapours and he'll get better within a couple of weeks' time. You've had some time away.
Is that what's happened here?
I think that's what's happened. I don't think they're going to get rid of him.
Well, why are you talking about cancel culture then?
Well, I think he's got a real point. So, he's been cancelled. He's been suspended. And all this woke dogma and the cancel culture that's through everything at the moment, every corporation, every HR department. HR departments are where it emanates from in corporations. So equality, diversity and inclusion, it's just a drag on any progress. So all hires have to be filtered through according to all demographic tastes. You don't just get the best person for the job. So it's an absolute nonsense. All, any quota or anything like that is gonna anything that steers you away from the most productive route is going to be a drag on growth and investment.
I worry about this intolerance of eccentricity. I think every corporation and business should have an eccentric with weird views. Makes it more fun. We had a teacher that thought pigeons were the agents of Satan.
They are.
Maybe they are.
I think I grew up in a time when individuality was celebrated, and I just think, right. we are sort of becoming such a homogenised kind of globe.
Right, exactly. So we can disagree with him, but you can still have a job, maybe. Anyway, speaking of truth bombs, Prince Harry, he's the king of the truth bombs. He's been dropping a few of his own. This is from Friday's Times.
OK, so Prince Harry tells of significant tensions with Queen's aid in legal battle. So basically, he's the Duke of Sussex. He's taken a legal action against the Home Office over a decision to not allow him to pay for police protection for himself and his family when he visited the UK.
So can you clarify that? So he wanted to come over here, and the Home Office said, well, we can't afford your security.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'll pay for it. And they said, no, you can't pay for it. And now he's suing them.
Yeah, now he's kind of suing them. And he's saying that, was a decision made by, someone in the palace, and it's like there's a bit of tension between the Queen's, I think it's a secretary. Sorry, what was it?
So he's saying, why is this such an issue? Why is this escalated to such a degree? Leo, do you know why this has happened?
This is actually interesting because I understood it to be him suing the Home Office of the police because they wouldn't provide free policing.
No. My understanding was it was because they wouldn't allow him to pay for it.
Right. I'm fine. I don't understand this at all. If it's some sort of the royals and the establishment sniping at Prince Harry, if he wants to pay for policing, he can pay for policing around my gaff. then maybe my car won't get broken in.
I don't see the problem. Like, if he wants to pay for it, I mean, at the end of the day, we've got to remember, whether he's...
Well, it's because he's estranged now, isn't it?
Yeah, he might be estranged, but it's kind of... I do think there's a little bit of, there is a case that they have got it in for him and Meghan.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, he's still a royal and he should have protection, given what happened to his mum.
OK, well, let's move on now to Friday's Guardian. And the future is vegan, apparently.
Oh, God, maybe for some people. But so this report from Boston Consulting Group found that for each $1 of investment in improving and scaling up the production of meat and dairy alternatives resulted in 3 times more greenhouse gas reductions compared with investment in green cement technology. Basically, they're saying that if you invest in vegan food, you get bigger savings in climate,
well, of course,
emissions or whatever.
The article says beef results in 6 to 30 times more emissions than tofu.
But it tastes 40 times better than tofu.
No, it does. I actually disagree with this, because I can remember when I ate meat back when I was a child, and beef was horrible. I think tofu is wonderful. What do you think?
So some of tofu's OK, but on the whole, like, I do think plant-based food is a bit minging. I mean, I do like the hot dogs. And I like Linda McCartney sausages, but they do repeat on you years later.
OK. Well, look, let's move on to another food item now. This is on Friday's Telegraph. It's about that long-lasting geopolitical tension between ice cream and the state of Israel.
Yeah, so Ben & Jerry's ice cream, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically an ice cream company, but they've become incredible, like, social activists. It's almost like they're a political party with a small ice cream division attached to them.
Do you know they've got an activism manager?
Oh, my God.
Ben & Jerry's has an activism manager who earns a fortune.
Oh, yeah, of course they earn a fortune. Can you imagine all the meetings you get dragged to? You've got to, like, have some college graduate tell you why you're a terrible person. I mean, at least there's free sandwiches, probably. But yeah, in the last few weeks, the brand has lobbied for tougher gun control laws in America and hit out at Britain's racist Rwanda plan. Even though Ben & Jerry's themselves are racist because they target sugary desserts at demographics who are more prone to suffering from diabetes, which
I think they would challenge that claim, if I can just say for fairness.
I will challenge that claim.
Go on, Sajila, let's hear it.
Missed your curse. So they're targeting Ben & Jerry's? Are they targeting people like me with my diabetes and being Asian? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, because they support Black Lives Matter, so that can be seen as targeting black people because you're supporting a black movement.
I love that you've jumped from
black people are more prone to diabetes.
Wait, OK, Sajila, anyway. Can I come to you on this? Because, like, isn't it the case that really what Ben & Jerry's should be focusing on is, truffle kerfuffle and chunky monkey New York fudge ice cream and not worrying so much about resolving the Israel-Palestine?
Well, the chunky monkey is now beginning to think, well, what does that stand for? What is that a metaphor for?
Well, you don't know, do you?
I mean, it's messages, subliminal messages. I don't think there's anything wrong with them taking a stance to be a little bit more politically, savvy and want to get their views. They're an ice cream company. So what? They've decided they've always been a bit unconventional. Let's face it, with their flavours and stuff.
So why not? When in 2017, for instance, in Australia, they banned the sale of 2 scoops of same flavour ice cream because they were protesting about the same-sex marriage bill. They wanted to push for same-sex marriage, so they wouldn't let their customers buy 2 vanilla scoops.
Did they not know that the ice cream scoops aren't having sex?
Well,
nothing to do with
it was
sex.
A big metaphor, big elaborate metaphor. They also had Pecan Resist, a new flavour to protest against Trump.
Change the world.
I'm not sure they're the bad guys here because it's Unilever.
Unilever, the big parent company.
Yeah, the parent company, who are basically saying that they shouldn't get involved in this and that somehow their political activism is harming. Because they're obviously boycotting. They want them to boycott stuff from. Sorry, go on.
Well, yeah, basically the story here, which we haven't actually got to yet, is so Ben & Jerry's stopped selling ice cream in Israel, they call it occupied territories. They say it's Palestinian land. And obviously this is, why out of all the countries in the Middle East are they singling out Israel? Lots of countries in the Middle East have dodgy records on human rights. Most of them much worse than, in fact, all of them much worse than Israel. Israel's got democracy, it's got equal rights for women and gays and all the rest of it.
It's also got apartheid over there, which is against the Palestinians.
Well, other countries in the Middle East. So why are they singling out Israel? Obviously because Ben & Jerry's, as well as being massively racist, are completely anti-Semitic.
I don't think you two are going to agree on this. I think they should be allowed their own opinions, but we've got to move on now, I'm afraid. But I just think, when you get a Mr. Whippy, they don't lecture you about economic inequality. They just say, do you want a chocolate flake with that? Anyway, that's it for part 2. Coming up after the break, it's the good stuff. We've got deep fakes the perils of wearing white, and why T-Rex had tiny arms. See you there.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and I'm joined by the effervescent Sajila Kershi and the ever-present Leo Kearse. You are here a lot, Leo, aren't you? Yeah. Telegraph next. It turns out that the romantics were right, Sajila. Broken hearts.
Yeah, so you literally can die of a broken heart. Well, a heart disease, a post-bereavement. So grief can be lethal for people who already have heart problems. So if you, they're saying that if a loss of a spouse can increase your risk of dying by 20%, and that rises to 113% in the first week of bereavement. So
I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise, because you do hear, like, couples who one partner dies and they're usually older, so, you know, heart disease is probably, and definitely it's quite rife in my family, and usually one partner will die and the next one will die. And then bereavement, it literally does,
And also people who are on their last legs, you know, they normally hang on for a purpose. And if they lose their partner, a lot of their purpose in their life has gone. And a lot of this is psychological, isn't it, Leo?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got nothing at all to do with the vaccine. I've noticed a plethora of stories in the newspapers in the last few months about
gonna start
football and not getting enough sleep and all these things that can cause myocarditis or cause heart problems.
Be that as it may, this is a study.
This is a proper study in Sweden.
Heart failure.
Yeah, in
which
Sweden.
Predates the pandemic as well.
500,000 people. 500,000 people tested.
And we're going to move on now to this story about deep fake porn. What's this about, Leo?
I don't know, because somebody took the story.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh.
Well, this is
number 10,
number 12.
Number 12, okay.
Number 12. No, that was.
This is criminal reforms target deep fake and non-consensual pornography imagery. So this is about this idea that now it's going to be criminalised. If people take your image, your photograph, and they put your face onto someone else's body in a pornographic context, that can also be criminalised. Isn't that what Ross did that to Chandler in Friends once? He took his face and put it onto a...
There's always a Friends episode for everything in life. Everything.
Well, anyway, we've got a video of it, so let's have a look now. No, we don't really. Can't do that. That would be too much.
I nearly got whiplash looking at the monitor.
You're very keen all of a sudden.
This sounds like it's a good idea. So it's going to stop revenge porn. It's going to stop, upskirting when people take photos upskirts. But they're talking about down blousing, which is when people look down blouses.
Down the boobies, yeah.
I'm 6'5". I can see down most blouses. And so it's up to 3 years in prison. And deep fake pornography, that's when you just fake pornography.
Yeah, so it's not real.
So it's not real, and that just sounds like fun. That's not like sharing somebody's intimate details because it's fake.
There's a fan who's like done things for me and Susie Bennett, another comedian, and he just like superimposes our faces on other things. Oberman, and it's brilliant. It's really clever.
Yeah. Yes,
but yeah, I mean, obviously, if you did
there
it
are
with,
obviously dangers with this.
Yeah, if you did it with like
with young people,
a fallen Madonna with the
there's all sorts of safeguarding problems.
But I do think. I mean, they're saying that you get up to 3 years. I think that's actually quite right because as young girls, we've seen it in the past. I think we did a story here where upskirting for schoolgirls, like as they're going up the stairs, going to school, that's outrageous. So that's a good thing.
Well, we do have to move on now. Friday's Mail. It looks like the women's English football team might have to give up playing in white. Is this unpatriotic or just sensible laundry protocols?
OK, so, England stars have spoken to Nike about scrapping white shorts from their kit over concerns of playing on their periods. This is women who identify as women, vintage women. And it's an issue that's always kind of concerned me, like when like it's not just footballers, it's like Wimbledon, they have this all-white kind of thing. And women, every woman will know, like the dangers of wearing white on certain days of the month.
Of course.
And so they're saying, why do we have to have white? And even women in Wimbledon, they're saying, well, I remember Martina Navratilova, she was running around and you could see her sanitary pad and everybody laughed in the audience and she was like really angry with them. So why not make different colours? Because it's hard enough to do like a sport like that, with
it seems like a sensible precaution.
Yeah, well, I mean, because, white is the British colour, why not use like red, white and blue? Why not use blue?
Leo, I'm sure you've thought about this a lot.
Would blue not also be... I mean, I think what you want is a sort of maroon paisley print. But every tampon advert I've ever seen shows people in white clothes climbing ladders on roller skates.
Yeah, and they make the point that you don't
we're blaming tampon for because I think they're trying to show that, look, even with white clothing, this will not show. But it is an issue. It's an issue for every woman.
OK, well, let's move on to Friday's Guardian now. Trouble is brewing among us comedians with regards to the Edinburgh Fringe, Leo.
Yeah, so more than 1,600 comedians, agents and producers have signed a letter that accuses the Edinburgh Fringe Festival of mismanagement. So it's a charity that's received millions of pounds in taxpayers' money over COVID relief and also millions of pounds from comedians. If you're performing at the Edinburgh Fringe, you've got to pay, or you don't have to, but, you pretty much have to pay 300 odd quid to be registered with them. But they've scrapped their ticketing app. There's a lack of transparency over what they're spending the money on, and they're failing to help artists with soaring accommodation costs and cuts in train services. And obviously, the SNP have got involved and they've restricted the amount of housing by stopping a rule that allowed student accommodation, student flats to be let out. I think this is just emblematic. It's the final, sort of peak of the Edinburgh Fringe. It tries to bleed comedians
People
dry.
don't get how expensive it is. The comics, the fact that, the rent is absolutely extortionate, the venue rates are really huge. It's impossible to make money there even if you're known. It's really the people who are making the money are the venues. The people who are losing out are the comedians and the punters, basically.
It's lost the ethos of why it was there. It was a fringe.
Yes.
It was a fringe, for people who are just starting out to try and, get their wares out. And I think free fringe is the only kind of really feasible way. But even with
we should explain to the audience, because they may not know, the free fringe was set up, and the idea of the free fringe is that you wouldn't pay for your venue, and the audience wouldn't pay for the tickets. They'd just put money into a bucket at the end. And it turned out to be really successful. You've done the free fringe a number of times.
Oh, the free fringe is amazing. So you pay, instead of paying thousands for your venue, you just pay, 100 quid, 120 quid or something, and it's a great venue. It's usually a great venue. Better that I did the paid fringe one year, and the room was worse.
That could be terrible, not air conditioned. Or
and then you lose all this money. So free fringe, you can make a living doing it, and it's brilliant fun. And also their app works. But I think the fringe has lost its way. It used to be, where you went to be seen, and the tastemakers would decide. Now it's gone super woke. So if you're somebody like me, you can't. You're almost deplatformed from parts of it. And it's the internet means, you can connect directly with your audience. You can put videos up on YouTube like I do and just get
What does this mean? Is the fringe obsolete? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I'm not going this year. Are you going?
No.
No. Are you?
Well, I'm going for one day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm going.
But I wouldn't take a show there. I'd go overseas to the overseas fringes, which is what I'm intending to do.
Yeah, I think that's probably sensible. Anyway, on to the Times now. And an Italian town has embraced body shaming. Sajila?
When the moon hits your eye like a big bikini pie. So Mayor outlaws bikinis to spare Sorrento's blushes. So a local journalist in Sorrento said that the ban would stop a macabre procession of bare flesh.
But this is the Amalfi
Is it the
Coast.
living dead, like with bikinis that are... Why use the word macabre? And they're also banning tourists from walking around in swimming costumes because they think it's it's described as widespread indecorous behaviour.
But this is a moral thing, right?
Yeah,
this is a beautiful... The coastline there, it's very
stunning.
People are going to wear less, right?
Yeah, but I wonder if this like a bare flesh, like maybe not so hot bare flesh. That's what it is. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
What do you mean that they don't want ugly people taking their tops
I think we need to stop telling people, especially women, what they can and can't wear. It's been described as Dante's Inferno. Come on.
Well, I mean, a lot of the people in Dante's Inferno were naked. If you see the illustrations by Gustave Doré, you can see a lot of them are naked.
I mean,
so maybe that's what they mean.
It's on the Riviera, right? Why not let... That's what you're supposed to do.
What do you think, Leo?
Yeah, I don't think you should ban bikinis. I think that's ridiculous. This is almost like...
I wonder why you're saying that.
He should be the mayor of Kabul.
Friday's Mirror now, and a novel first date strategy. Sound advice, Leo?
No, a woman was left baffled after she went on a first date with a man and asked him what he did for a living, as the bloke refused to answer due to a policy he has. So yeah, she...
What's his policy? Sorry.
Basically, she kept asking him. So they've been talking for, a few weeks. So she was like, what do you do for a living? And he said he has a policy of not talking about his work when getting to know a woman, and he was super evasive about it. She was worried if she was going to have to chip in for the meal, obviously. But she says it turns out he has all these paranoid men's rights beliefs about women dating men for their money. I mean, when's that ever happened? Apart from almost every single...
So he's worried about gold digging.
He's rightly worried
because the trouble is, if you're on a date and you refuse to say what you do, you see, my assumption would be, well, you're an assassin or a prostitute or something like that, right?
Yeah, you go to the darkest places. But can I just say, this was on Bumble. Bumble, which is supposed to be where the women have all the power and the control.
Is that right?
And so she had a right to ask him what he did and not to answering. It makes me think, well, what were you doing? I don't think he had a good job at all. He's not a keeper, love. He's not a keeper.
What if you have a really embarrassing job, like you work for The Guardian or something? What do you do then?
Well, then you can't afford the meal anyway.
That's a very good point. Very good point. Let's move on now to the theme of relationships from The Times. The corrosive effect of pornography, Sajila.
OK, so men's relationships not badly influenced by porn, according to this research. They found that looking at pornographic actresses didn't reduce the attractiveness of familiar women's faces. So watching pornography may not be as detrimental as everybody thinks it is.
There's loads of conflicting studies about the effects of pornography, and they've even had, obviously a lot of feminist campaigners say that pornography increases sexual assault. A lot of studies suggest that actually people who consume pornography are less likely to commit sexual assault. Does it really have much of an effect on people in the real world, or are people able to distance themselves?
Well, let's ask a consumer of pornography.
Oh, do you never watch pornography?
Let's not get into personal questions here, Leo. Let's just cast aspersions. So, as someone who consumes... No. Tell me what you think, Leo. But do you think that people can just watch pornography and see it as fantasy and it doesn't really affect them in their sex lives and their relationship with their partners?
Absolutely. Like you can watch a film or play a video game and see it as fantasy. I think the problem is when you've got somebody with a predilection for, a particular, who's likely to cause harm or whatever... Then pornography could, enforce their fantasies.
OK.
Well, it's interesting. It didn't make any difference whether you were homosexual or heterosexual in terms of how you reacted to people finding people's faces attractive after watching pornography.
I mean, it's very interesting.
I'll tell you what's interesting is the number of studies they do in pornography. It's way more than any other.
They do a lot, don't they?
It's because students, researchers want to watch pornography. This is an excuse.
Well, of course they do.
They get paid by the government to watch pornography.
I know. Yeah.
Camille Paglia actually said that there's a lot of great art within pornography. She said Michelangelo was one of the world's greatest pornographers. So, interesting. Friday's Metro now, and this one goes some way to proving something we all suspected. Jeremy Beadle must have been an incredible lover. Leo.
That's a terrible thing to say. But basically, so T-Rexes, as you'll know if you've seen a T-Rex or watched Jurassic Park, they've got these tiny, they're famous for having these tiny little gerbil paws for arms. And, you know, they
quite
seem
cute in a way, except that they'll eat your head.
Yeah, they are kind of cute. So, you know, they seem to be no use for anything because they're too small to really pick anything up and get it to the mouth or do it. But the reason they're there, these scientists, researchers, they've taken a break from looking at pornography. They're still influenced by pornography. They've decided that T-Rex's arms are actually for gripping mates tightly during sex. Mates as in somebody they're having sex with, not their mates.
Not that they're buddies, they're
But because all the pornogaphy would be wasted on their arms being so short, I suppose. But,
Gila, that's an image.
Give me a pterodactyl. Give me a pterodactyl any day with their big wings. I mean, I just want to be hugged.
Is there someone who studies? Is there someone who's like a half paleontologist, half sexologist, and they specialise in dinosaur
Ross from Friends.
Ross from Friends, very likely. Let's move on now to The Guardian. And I thought America's Stonehenge was in the movie Spinal Tap, Sajila. Apparently not.
Oh, okay.
It's about this monument in America.
Right. So America's Stonehenge, that some see as a satanic, has been torn down after a bombing. So there's a structure in Georgia, and it basically was demolished in an attack by unknown individuals.
What is this monument?
So it's apparently a peculiar granite monument that some people have dubbed like America's Stonehenge. It's got like lots of, you know, like little... But anyway, some people think it's satanic, but like this mystery bombers have bombed some of it, and then what they did was got rid of the rest of it because they said like it was obviously a bit of an eyesore, so it no longer exists.
But doesn't this just show? I mean, they call this America's Stonehenge. It's 42 years old. Yeah. Stonehenge is from 2500 BC, it's from the late Neolithic period. This is not...
Well, America's newer. Everything's newer in America.
Also, I think if you set the same bomb off at Stonehenge, nothing would happen to Stonehenge. This thing's made out of MDF. Obviously, it fell over.
Right, Friday's Metro now, and this one goes some way to prove. Oh no, we've got to move on to another story now. This is the one about Stephen Fry. Do you know this one about Stephen Fry and the batter?
Yeah, so, I mean, I read this. This is the interview with Stephen Fry, who's now the president of the Marylebone Cricket Club. And they've, made some sort of woke moves. They've replaced batsmen with batter. Yeah. So instead of, the image of a man holding a cricket bat, which could be sexist, they have the image of a bowl of eggs and milk and flour mixed together.
Yes.
Don't know how that works. But instead of, bowls, we don't have bowls men, we call them bowlers. So that's his rationale behind saying batter. So he's saying it's not wokery, it's politeness.
Well, he's talking about the evolution of language, and he's saying that younger people aren't going to be bothered by the idea that you don't use archaic phrases like batswoman anymore and that kind of thing.
Although batter is a word, and it means batter.
It means something else.
Yeah, you can't use it to describe a batsman.
I mean, isn't Stephen Fry's got a point here, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's also got other bits, like, do you really want to go back to a left armer's wrong'un, what used to be called, because it was called as the Chinaman, so they're going to get rid of that.
Well, things do... I mean, old-fashioned phrases, which now have connotations which we no longer consider acceptable, they go out of style, don't they? I mean, that's fairly standard stuff. It doesn't strike me as too controversial, the things he's saying here, particularly.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we've got to finish now, but this is with The Sun, and this one is bound to be popular with the spies amongst us.
Yeah, and if you've got an iPhone gets the new lockdown mode, and not to be confused with what happened in the last couple of years and screwed up our lives. No, it could cost you. iPhone owners will soon be able to use a new extreme lockdown mode in a bid to prevent being spied on, because anyone who's afraid of being spied on, you can use this feature. However, the security boost will result in some of the features becoming restricted. This is not going to come out until the next iOS 16, when it lands in autumn.
This is like an acknowledgement that we are really facing problems now with spyware.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was that Pegasus spyware, the one that was developed by the Israeli security forces.
Yeah.
Which can actually get into your phone, turn your camera on, listen to what you're saying, film you, send messages from your phone as though it's you. I mean, this stuff is absolutely terrifying, because we've all got these smartphones now.
I know.
They're just part of our lives now.
And cyber attacks have gone up 800% since lockdown. So we're talking in a short space of time, because we suddenly became much more... We were already a very digital society, but we suddenly became glued to these devices.
Yeah.
And like you say, they're a window into our lives. The Russian army is even using... so kids in Ukraine download games that they're involved in taking photographs, like a sort of Pokemon type thing.
Yeah.
But then they're encouraged to take photographs of assets that could be bombed, like bridges and big buildings.
That's
and things
scary.
Like that.
That is really scary.
And the Russian army knows the exact coordinates.
Well, no wonder Apple are going to try and do something about this. But whether this can work or not, I mean, it feels like the hackers are a bit too smart.
Yeah.
Right?
They should have done it already.
They should. Of course they should.
A bit late.
We're so vulnerable. Too little, too late, Apple. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. So I want to just thank my guests, Sajida Kershi and Leo Kearse. Tomorrow night, Mark Dolan will be in the chair for headliners and we'll be joined by Nick Dixon and Simon Fanshawe. See you then.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate, and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for big guests, big opinions, and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honesty.